Hey everybody, up next we're going to talk about the Sennheiser in-ear monitors. So once we start talking about solutions to get over to wireless speakers, it usually becomes a pretty hot topic. We have everything from Alto Wireless over to the Rode solution, and ultimately to the higher end solutions when you get into in-ear monitors. So part of the reason for such a lively discussion is the in-ear monitor solutions are not inexpensive. You know, you're talking usually $1,000 for a competent in-ear monitor, versus somewhere between $350, $400, $450 for the various similar solutions from Alto, Rode, and others. And for a lot of people, you may be wondering, well, what solution is going to work best for me? Do I really need to spend the money to get an in-ear monitor? Can I get away with this? Well, let's talk the different scenarios. Now, while I haven't owned the Rode solution personally, on paper it looks pretty good, and at the price point, it's pretty competitive also with the Alto Stealth Wireless. I have heard a few DJs comment that they had some positive experiences with it. It's meant kind of as a photographer's solution where you have something on top of a camera, which is the size of a lav pack, over to its receiver, which is again the size of a lav pack. And it's more meant for that really truly ultra mobile need for transmitting and receiving audio wirelessly. Another disadvantage of the Rode solution is it does operate in a 2.4 gigahertz spectrum, and if you've read anything about it, this is where Wi-Fi, microwaves, and Bluetooth and other things just live. And it becomes a very crowded space, and you get somewhere where 50, 100, 200 guests. You could be introducing a lot of noise that you're trying to get through in order to transmit and receive wirelessly. And being in that space, it becomes kind of a crapshoot whether you're going to get a great response versus dropouts and whatnot. And one last point to note is you're limited to the amount of channels that you can use to broadcast and receive on. Alright, so let's go over to the Alto Stealth Wireless now. I owned one of these for around 18 months or so. I had various levels of success with it. As a growing solo DJ business with not a lot of money, I looked at the in-ear monitors, and from the price point, it was really hard for me to justify the cost. So I went ahead, I did the Alto, and while I wasn't regretting the purchase, I definitely ran into enough issues that as soon as I had the money to change over, I went ahead and did that. Now at the time, my unit was a 600 megahertz option. Now they do finally have 500 megahertz options as well, so at least you can operate legally in the spectrum. You are limited, I believe, to 16 channels in total that you can operate on. So once again, if you're in a very crowded space with a lot of people, if you're especially near an airport or something like that with a lot of noise, you could end up just not finding a clean channel to work off of. And while the Alto you can kind of jerry rig into a rack mount space because it's about the half size as you would see with similar microphone setups and whatnot, you do kind of have to stick it on something and kind of work it around. But one of the biggest disadvantages I had was it has fixed antennas on it. So in order to prop it up sometimes and get a clear line of signal, I would have to take it out of the rack and, put it up on top of a speaker, put it on top of my setup. I put Velcro on the sides of it, so this way I could actually just kind of rip it out, put it where I needed to, and it worked. It wasn't an elegant solution, and I want to say 6 out of 10 times, it's something that worked. But those, 4 out of 10 times, I would cringe. It'd be sometimes the shortest distance between my cocktail speaker and my main setup, and I'd get pops, I'd get crackles, things just wouldn't sound right sometimes, and no matter what I did, it just wasn't the best solution for what I was doing. And at least in all the venues that I worked at, there was just so many variables that kind of got thrown at me that it just became a question mark whether this was going to work for me or not. So now let's talk about in-ear monitors. And one of the first questions I actually had from another DJ when I was talking about this solution was, why do they even call it an in-ear monitor? So these are intended to be used with live performers to whether it's either pumping in their voice or pumping in a mix into the ear, so they don't have to worry about large monitors, in front of them, getting that sound to them. Now, I'm not sure who dreamt of the ideas. Let's take this out of the ear. Let's marry this up with an XLR cable and put it into a speaker, but it simply works. So one of the advantages over its competition is the frequency response is all the way down to 20 hertz, all the way up to 20,000 hertz. This is your proper, full range that you want to be able to hear, especially transmit to speakers. Another advantage is this isn't operating in the crowded 2.4 gigahertz space. This is operating in a proper 500 megahertz space, or really actually 470 megahertz to 608 megahertz. These can be properly rack mounted. So in my case, I have both side by side an in-ear monitor and a single microphone into a single 1U rack ear. So this way, it can be mounted without any issues. When you buy it, it comes with a standard BNC connected quarter wave dipole. You can marry it up with a half wave dipole, or if you need to get really crazy, you can hook this up to directional fins or other types of antennas to help propagate your signal. And if you're used to microphone lav packs, then this will look very familiar. It is the same exact shell that you would see. It takes AA batteries, and you can go ahead and clip this onto anything. Now, putting this on a speaker, naturally there isn't a typical spot to clip it on, but there are definitely some creative ways that you can go ahead and attach this so it's not just flopping around. Now, the Rode, the Alto, and the in-ear monitors all say on paper that they have around a 300 foot, 100 meter area of operation. Now, I can say from the Alto that I use that I only got that in rare cases. It had to be, kind of a perfect condition of clear line of sight and whatnot. But let's face it, as a wedding DJ, I'm just not faced with optimal, arrangements. I'm usually kind of stuck in an area where I'm trying to penetrate through 1, 2, 3 multiple walls. There's microwaves happening. There's lots of squishy people trying to block a signal. And, it's just hard sometimes to get what you would expect the performance out of this. But let's go ahead, let's test this out in the real world and see what kind of performance we get with the IEM. All right, so the easiest way to kind of test this is to actually have this out here. Now, I'm actually going through my house with everything from a high top table, a couple squishy people in between my steel and aluminum door, of course my wood frame, a number of other houses. And to say that I've got some pretty good distance is not an understatement. Back there is 300 feet from where everything is, and this is also inside my box with still just the quarter wave dipoles. And as you can hear, and I still have some distance on it. I didn't want to push it too much further. It's getting right on the edge of it coming out of focus and getting a little staticky. But this is the kind of performance that you can get with an IEM versus, some of the other solutions that are out there that, you will get some decent performance, maybe 100 feet, maybe even 200. But once you start getting into those extremes, then, it's kind of a crapshoot. Also with the IEM, because you have such a wide selection to work off of, and 3 bands from Sennheiser in total, you will get the best options that are available in your area. Be if you have TV stations in the area, if you have airports and whatnot, this will definitely be the best solution that you can work with if you want distance, clarity, and range. So as you saw, clearly the IEM, meets and can even beat what's on paper. That was 300 plus feet out through a whole lot of things, actually through multiple buildings, because where the speaker was, it was kind of a really shallow diagonal shot, and I was probably going through at least 2 houses to ultimately get to where it was. And that wasn't even clear line of sight. I have had instances where I've exceeded 500 feet from a true clear line of sight, still with the quarter waves on it. It was basically beaming across a lake, and it still was great. So This is one of the reasons why I personally, highly recommend the in-ear monitors. And while I understand, especially because I've been there from a budgetary perspective, it's hard to justify the around $1,000 for a single transmitter and receiver, and usually goes around $1,300 for a pair of receivers and a transmitter. It's not an easy sell to kind of work in your solution. However, if you are in a critical solution, like for me as a wedding DJ, you do not want to be embarrassed by poor sound. You don't want to have your couple or the guests just kind of look at you as like, why isn't this working well? And I had gotten some looks with that with the Alto before. It was, again, a crapshoot. In all the instances that I've used the in-ear monitor, and I want to dare say I'm somewhere around like 75 to 80 uses now, various venues across the place. There's only been one instance, and I found out from some kind of investigating of the property that they actually had a very leaky power junction box around their foyer, and that was really messing with my throw. It was around 150, 175 feet from my base to there. It was also going through some steel supports plus some plaster and all that. So, they already had some obstacles to begin with, but this EMF that was being broadcast from there was just immense. I hooked the my in-ear monitor receiver to my headphones. I hovered it around this junction box, and it was just it was complete noise. It was total horror. And actually, the owner was there, and I pointed it out to him, and I don't know if they'll ever fix that solution. So while it's not 100% perfect, nothing ever is. But given all the other uses that I've had over the years, I just really cannot recommend anything better. The Sennheiser IEM 300G3 is a workhorse. It is worth every penny and then some. This solution is in fact so good that I end up buying a second in-ear monitor for my ceremony box as well. So now I have truly two identical boxes between ceremony and reception, and with that I have my Maui 5 Goes for ceremonies and potentially cocktail as well, and it just frees me up to place my sound where it sounds best and not necessarily where power, if there is any, is available. Well, there's a video, and I hope you liked it. If so, hit that thumbs up, click subscribe, hit that notification bell, do whatever social media is telling you to do today, because I'm sure it's going to change tomorrow. And if you like these kind of videos, go ahead, check out the 4 DJs Only playlist, and I'll be checking it out.